Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Listen, updates immediately. Canada just caved in. Just folded like a cheap suit, like a lawn chair, just whatever metaphor you want to use. I just saw this floating across. I got like a Fox News update, and then I went and looked at the source. So here's, first of all, here's Fox doing the breaking news. This happened just 20 minutes ago.
For his country, Trudeau wrote in part, Canada's making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24 before.
Oh, wait, the beginning of that here.
Fox News alert. This is the breaking news I shared with you just before we went to commercial break. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying moments ago on X, President Trump's proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days for his country.
All right, let me go read the statement that he put out here, because he just put this on X/Twitter at 3:36 our time. This is Justin Trudeau, so I should probably read it in like a more effeminate voice. I just had a good call with President Trump. I'm not going to do that. Canada's implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I've also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we'll be backing it with $200 million. Oh, my goodness. So that's the breaking news. Canada has relented. Proposed tariffs will be paused for 30 days while they work on the rest of the details. Raven Harrison's my next guest, the conservative warrior. Raven, that's 2 wins in one day. Mexico and Canada both buckled, and it's not even dinner.
I keep saying this man is playing 5D chess and everybody else is playing checkers, but I'm glad that somebody explained to Trudeau what it means to import 17% of what you use as opposed to 77%. So he was never going to win this, but this is the Trump effect. Winning.
Well, I think you're giving them too much credit. This isn't 5D chess or 4D chess or even checkers. This is tic-tac-toe. You can't beat America in a trade war if you're Canada. They have a population smaller than Texas. We're the only country that they possibly border. So what do they think they're going to bully us around?
No, they just wanted to huff a little bit about Trump's comment about being the 51st state. But at the end of the day, again, if you don't look at anything else, you got to look at what do we spend to defend Canada. So this is, again, Trump putting everybody, and it's glorious. The meltdowns are across the board. But this is what this man got elected for, and we got to start. Nobody's paying their fair share. Nobody's taking America seriously under Biden. We have got to get back to common sense and putting money back in our coffers.
Well, the one brilliant thing I like about this, because when I started the show, Canada hadn't relented and Mexico had just relented. But I did a whole spiel on we've gotten a lot of people to admit that raising taxes on parties that you do business with will hurt the poor and middle class the most. And so when they want to raise taxes on corporations, it's the same law that applies. You're putting a new tax on it. So anyone who does business with corporations, their input's going to be higher. Those taxes aren't going to be paid by the corporation. They're going to be passed along to the consumer. And we just have a whole weekend of tape of all these people saying that.
Well, we have 2 issues with that. Did anybody else take economics? The goal is to have these products made in America by American workers. That's what helps bring it down. When we were exporting energy, that also brings it down. I also like to remind people, James, this is important. Poor people don't make jobs. Okay, so they like to say, well, the rich paying their fair share and all this kind of stuff. The rich are the ones who create jobs. That's who we should be incentivizing to create more businesses to hire more people. Okay, but then we have AOC in there, but we have to have a living wage of $6,000 an hour if you can't speak the language. So we have to start putting all these things in here so that we can get all of this. These are moving parts that need to be all aligned so we get this working right. So that's what I would say to that, is to remind people of that. They seem to really beat up on rich people a lot. Do poor people normally create jobs?
Well, there's so many things I would like to crystallize just from this economic moment, because like what you're talking about, if you raise the price on imports from Canada or Mexico, then we're going to get less of that. Well, if you raise the price of minimum wage, guess what you're going to have fewer of? Minimum wage workers. There's sort of the law of conservation of mass here when it comes to it's not like they can just print money to throw around. So there's a lot of good wins here, and they're on pause for 30 days. Do you think they'll get unpaused?
I don't. I think he will play ball. I mean, like I said, he's in over his head on this. But again, I am very, very supportive of President Trump getting this. Again, the end goal is to get them made here, to put our people back to work, to get them, doing it, and for them to be paying, like I said, regular wage. What happened when they raised the minimum wage out in California? You got kiosks everywhere. This is what has to be thought through. Some of these people are only thinking about half the equation, but that's what we want right now. So, yes, I think they're going to keep it unpaused because Trump isn't playing games.
But I want them to remember this. So when they say that they're going to do, shut down the Keystone XL pipeline or shut down offshore drilling or put a pause on leases, you're necessarily increasing the cost of oil, which is an input into the economy. And you've admitted that whenever you increase the cost of the inputs of some product, it gets passed along to the consumers and hurts poor people.
Correct that, and I'd like to also interject on that for the ones going, well, he didn't bring egg prices down. He didn't slaughter millions of chickens under the guise of a pandemic. We all have to, and bird flu only seems to affect chickens. It doesn't seem to affect cows or any other. So they culled all of these chickens, and the prices skyrocket. The man's been in 2 weeks now, like it's Trump's fault. Like heck it is. Okay, yeah, it's your silver alert, the Captain Underpants. That's his fault.
Captain Underpants. I like that. So don't worry. Egg prices will come back down. Hang on a second, because I still want to talk to you about the protests that happened around here in DFW. You're a local in our area. And also, I have had advice for the ICE protesters. And then also, more plane crashes. This can't be a coincidence. We'll ask Raven Harrison about it in about 4 minutes. If you have any comments, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We continue with Raven Harrison. Raven, did you go down to the protests? Was that you waving a Mexican flag at City Hall this weekend? Did I see you there?
It sure was not, but it was good to have I'll take, everybody who's a hypocrite for 200, Alex. That's what we saw out there. If you didn't take anything away from that, you saw people who are in our country illegally, who are on taxpayer money that they didn't put into, sitting on top of cars, blocking traffic and causing damage because they don't want to go back to a country they're waving a flag for. There it is.
That's one of the comments I see the most often. When you look at the protests, specifically the ones that happen here in Dallas, and I saw they were doing the same thing over in Fort Worth and Denton. They're flying a ton of Mexican flags, shouting "Viva Mexico" and "Si se puede" and chanting in Spanish. And why are you here?
Then why don't you want to go back there? Why are you resisting?
Why would sending you back there be inhumane? Right?
And again,
we're Nazis.
You're on streets you didn't pay for, receiving an education you didn't pay for. That all came courtesy of the taxpayers. So that's what it frustrates me the most about all of that. But again, and you knew Trump was coming in. He has campaigned on this issue. So why was this opportunity not taken to get legal?
Yeah, and I think they're really hurting their cause. I think if they just keep doing this over and over, they're going to lose support.
Well, that is correct. And, people are starting to see this for what it is. It is a way to skirt the laws. You cannot cherry pick which laws you want to follow, which ones you want to pay attention to. That is not how it works. And, this other we support, we are welcoming, but again, they want to delude this argument of immigrant versus illegal. That is a different argument. Immigrants helped build this country. Illegals are economic parasites who are here siphoning money off that our veterans and our seniors and our disabled are not getting. That's what that money is for, is to take care of of our citizens first, and anybody else having that argument, it is very un-American for them to be sitting there waving Mexican flags, getting upset about, we don't get enough food, we don't get enough this. You know what? Get all that stuff back in your country.
Okay, Raven, I'm going to just pivot to this airplane situation here, because when the question comes up, how many airplane crashes does there have to be before it's too much of a coincidence? And mathematically speaking, the answer to that is 2, because plane crashes are so rare. If you have more than one in any weekend or any week span, you should be suspicious. But there's been more than 2 issues that we've had. So what's going on? Are these connected?
Well, there's the ones you know about. Remember, I'm going to speak to this as, my father was a pilot in Nam, and I am married to a commercial airline pilot who just flew that route to Reagan. And I can tell you that all the people who are pushing back, most of which have no idea, what goes on behind the scenes, I can tell you it is unequivocally true. The issues that are going on with the FAA, the hiring, how they have prioritized skin color and all this other garbage that was going on under the Biden-Harris regime over skill and merit, and this was the foreseeable and logical outcome, especially for, what pilots do. I just want to put this in context. I don't know any other profession, James, that requires, my husband has 35,000 flight hours. I don't know, he has to get tested every 6 months for medical. He can't take aspirin without winding up on the no-fly list, and he's drug tested often. So I don't know any other job that we have that requires that level, other than maybe, the medical profession, that level of education and qualification and certification. So for all of a sudden Biden to walk in and go, you know what? Who are you on the street? You're black? Okay, come over here and fly this airplane. This is absolutely a dumpster fire, and my heart breaks because those were mostly children coming from a skating contest. And again, they're trying to spin this. We don't have all the facts, but here's what we do know is that apparently the person at the center of this who was flying the Black Hawk was an aide of Biden, who has pride stuff all over their social media page. And again, this is what I want to impress upon people, and I'm talking as a woman of color as well, is you cannot do that for something like aviation where you've got planes going here and there and people's lives are at stake. But now remember, these people who pushed this aren't living under this. Biden's never had to have his plane flown by a DEI hire or anything. And again, if DEI is such a trigger for them, then, if it's such a good thing, then why do they get offended when you call them that?
Well, DEI is something that if, who was that?
Evan. Earn it.
Yeah, Evan Sayet made the great distinction of the industries that liberals dominate. They're all rhetorical industries where, the result of what you're saying or doing or your philosophy doesn't matter. So people on TV, actors, actresses, academics, they can go out and they can teach a kid that Marxism is way better than capitalism, never have a bad thing happen to them. And those are the industries they dominate, showbiz, talk radio, politicians. But when you get in these real jobs where there is not room for error, building bridges, flying planes, that's where you have to go by merit or there's going to be negative consequences.
But it started at the top, didn't it, James? We got Pete, whatever his last name is. I don't even want to butcher that. But we got the unqualified transportation. Why did we get it? Because he's gay. That's why we got him. And then what happened? We immediately had supply chain unprecedented. We couldn't get baby formula. We had ships circling the harbor that couldn't unload while he was home chest feeding. True story. So what I'm saying is that started with him, and he has the nerve to come out and go, well, Donald Trump is playing politics. You got it because you're gay. How is that qualified for anything? And again, and look at what's happened. Unprecedented supply chain issues, skyrocketing costs, and then we got racist bridges. We got all this other garbage that came with it. So again, and now, a combination of, letting people get away with this and them being able to go 4 years unchecked without anybody pushing back on this with somebody at the helm who was unqualified, who couldn't answer any. Did you see the confirmation hearings of the person who was going to be heading this? Couldn't answer a single question about aviation. This is what happens. And now innocent people are dead. Innocent people have paid the price, for what he calls of we shouldn't play politics. Well, we shouldn't play politics now because we can tell everybody it's your fault. But nobody should have had to die for this. And the fact that they are happening now They're desperately trying to spin this narrative, but we all know what we're looking at here, which is we have to get back, as my father says, we got to make the main thing the main thing. And that's what we need to get back to, is letting Trump set this right while everybody let the liberals trigger and cry and whine, and that's what they do. It's climate change. No, it's people setting fires out there and having incompetent leadership, but we don't want to talk about that. So what I wanted to impress upon people is I'm reaching out behind the scenes to try to help the aviation family. I mean, they're devastated. What do you say to somebody of saying, well, this person had, X amount of hours, but they've got a pride flag. That's what we want, right?
Raven, I love it when you're all fired up. What are you doing now? You were super busy during election time, and I really don't know what you're promoting these days.
Well, what I'm doing is I've been laying low for a week. On Friday, we're going to be making an announcement about me jumping back into public office. I'm going to get back on the front line. I'm going to do my part to help set this right. We're going to it's time to fight. Warriors fight.
But you can't tell us yet?
I can tell you on Friday.
All right, well, come back on the show then. I'll be happy to promote you. You've been a great guest, and I know your head's screwed on right, so best of luck, and I look forward to the announcement. Thank you, Raven Harrison.
Thank you.
All right, your thoughts on that, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227, because that really is, mathematically speaking, that's my cutoff. How many plane crashes are more than a coincidence? 2. Remember when you had the 2 where they crashed on takeoff and Boeing had to redo their whole automated takeoff simulator or system or whatever it was? Right, that's all it takes. 800-288-9227. Because my question is, with all that's going around, whether or not you believe it was DEI or they're connected or something's going on, does this make you just a little bit more nervous about flying? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to have Carlos Trujillos from the Dallas Express. And he actually goes down with a microphone and a camera and tries to talk to the people at the protests that were happening. He went last weekend and this weekend. And I played you some of the audio from last weekend, and I was beeping it out. The F Trump, F Donald Trump, F Donald. We got it. F Donald Trump. You don't like Trump. Got it. But we're also, look, these are our neighbors, whether or not they're legal. Not everyone at the protest is an illegal immigrant. Some of them are legal immigrants. Some of them are natural-born citizens. So not to paint with a broad brush, but I was thinking maybe give them some advice. Number one, if you want to have a more effective protest, drop all the Mexican flags, drop all the flags of foreign countries, and fly American flags, maybe even Texas flags. Hell, a Dr. Pepper flag would be better than having the flags of foreign countries. And that's not a small thing. There's nothing wrong with being proud of where you're from here. But when we're in a protest of ICE, they're styled as ICE protests, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. So right now, they are protesting the deportations. And right now, we are deporting criminals, primarily criminals. And if you happen to be someone who without any additional crimes besides being an illegal immigrant next to them, well, you get deported too. But, wrong place, wrong time. That's on you, buddy. Well, look at how MSNBC's reporting on it. And I just want to give you an example here because I can't play you what the people at the protests were saying because in the background, there was always an F-bomb and it just didn't sound good. But here, this will just be an example from someone. This is the Saturday afternoon show, MSNBC, Katie Fang.
Convicted felon President Trump's terror campaign.
Hey, the first word, convicted felon.
Convicted felon President Trump's terror campaign through heightened mass deportation efforts.
It's a terror campaign. You get that? Deporting rapists is terrorism. What? Deporting criminals, deporting people who set women on fire on the subway. You're the terrorist, not the criminals, not the rapists, not the people who are burning Americans alive on their way to work. They're not terrorists. The convicted felon Donald Trump is orchestrating a mass enforcing your own border. Now a terrorist act. Enforcing your own immigration laws. Terrorist campaign. Terror campaign. Really? You couldn't be more hyperbolic. This is why no one believes you. Anyway.
Convicted felon President Trump's terror campaign through heightened mass deportation efforts has led to an increase in arrests while deportation flights remain at typical pre-Trump levels. So with more arrests, the federal government has to house those in custody somewhere. But we're hearing and we know the vice president of the National Immigration Law Center saying report upon report of conditions in those detention facilities that don't provide basic health care. They shackle women when pregnant, and they haven't had protections for communicable diseases such as COVID. I mean, Paula, the continued dehumanization of migrants is the goal here, right?
That's exactly right.
Oh, my goodness. If you don't like the terrible conditions, don't break the law. These are people who not only just broke our immigration law, but they broke some other bigger law on top of that. Some sort of sexual assault, some sort of violence, a murder, immolating your neighbor. These people, they're not supposed to wake up with a mint under their pillow. Oh, these accommodations are improper. They're from a third world country. Some of these people grew up with a dirt floor and a roof that was made of palm fronds. And you're worried that they don't have their full cornucopia of COVID-19 treatments. What are you going to do? Put them on a ventilator? Give them remdesivir? Give them the vax? That would be cruel if giving them the vax. You going to make them wear a mask all day like you did my kids for 2 years in school? Like you made me wear a mask just to go to the grocery store so I didn't die of starvation? Oh, no one cared about how we were being treated cruelly for the 2-year-old on the airplane crying while the mom's forcing a mask to remain on its face and is trying to fight it off. No, that wasn't cruel and unusual. A rapist not having his latest COVID-19 booster 3 years after the pandemic's over. That's cruel and y'all are stretching so hard. Convicted criminal, terror campaign. This is what you got? Oh, well, we can't be doing this. Rapists might not have their full complement of luxuries. I mean, they're just sitting there watching basic cable like monsters. So, did they take any of our advice from last week when the protests were coming out? We were trying to tell them, listen, if you don't want it to look like that your primary concern is the well-being of Mexico and the United States, switch the flags out. But I think that really is the lesson. Let me read you something. Cecilia sent me this on Facebook. And I'm just going to read Cecilia's, but know that about probably 24 other legal immigrants have sent a similar story, but Cecilia's was nice and short. Cecilia says, I'm listening to your show, and as someone who went the legal route to citizenship, spending tens of thousands of dollars and 15 years of my life in the process, the free resources offered to criminals just blanks me off. People like that are the ones who make it so lengthy, expensive, and complicated for those of us who follow the law. Where's the sympathy for these immigrants? Where's the sympathy for the immigrants and how much it costs them and what they've had to go through? No sympathy there. Just sympathy for the ones that break our laws. Just sympathy for the rapists and thieves and murderers and people that are squeezing off rounds into crowds and burning people alive. You know, flying the flags of foreign countries tells all of us you don't have this country's best interest at heart. But listen, once you accept that this is their point of view, the things that they are saying, the things that these protesters are saying and their supporters actually makes more sense. Because they say, you know, you just heard the MSNBC lady, you know, deporting illegals back. That's a bad thing. It's terrible. Housing them, that's a bad thing. Well, is deporting criminal illegal aliens, is that bad for the United States? Or is that bad for Mexico? Oh, that's bad for Mexico. Well, what about having immigration restricted to legal immigrants who have to wait in line and go through the process? Is that good for Mexico? No, that's bad for Mexico. They don't want that. They want illegal, unfettered immigration. They don't want a screening process at the border. They don't want it controlled. That's what's good for Mexico. What about the uninterrupted flow of drugs and human trafficking across our border? Is that good for the United States? No. Is that good for Mexico? Yes, it is. That's fantastic for the interest of people in Mexico. So you're flying the flag and saying things that prove you are clearly not here for the best interest of America or Americans, and you're bragging about it in the streets. Not only are you not winning anyone over to your side, you're calcifying us against you. You are just reiterating and making it impossible for the few people that are still on your side. Remember, around 70% of people in America support these mass deportations. That number's getting bigger every day y'all do this. So thanks a lot. I'm going to bring you, we're going to finish with a story that's not really important. Just, God, it's funny. I don't know why I find this so enjoyable. I probably shouldn't. It's probably a personality flaw. But do you remember the name David Hogg? He's this little guy, and I don't want to beat him up too much. He was in the Parkland High School class during the Parkland High School shooting. Now, he wasn't at school that day. He was off campus when it happened, but he as soon as he found out a bunch of his classmates got massacred, he rushed to the campus and made himself available to news and started saying the most anti-gun, anti-Trump, bombastic stuff that just CNN was waiting for. And so it catapulted him to stardom. Even though you can go find, a dozen Parkland students that will say the opposite, he's the one that gets to be on CNN. He's the one that's on MSNBC. He's the one that's interviewed in the New York Times. He's the one that got a full ride to Harvard, not based on his academics. He didn't even qualify to get in based on his grades. He got a full ride pushed through Harvard based solely on his political activism. And then he gets out. This is how long it's been. He's already graduated from Harvard. Now he's just a political activist. What does he do for a living? I don't know. He just gets paid to go around and do these events and do public speaking. He hasn't accomplished anything. And every single dispute he gets in, he's a huge embarrassing failure. And that's why I love him. He tried to pick a beef with Mike Lindell, kept commenting on his tweets a few years back. And he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my own pillow company, and I'm going to put him out of business. And we're going to show that you can have a good company and you can treat your employees right, and they can get full health care, and they can get 6 months of paid paternity leave or whatever all he was promising. How's his pillow company doing? You hear about that one? Did you get a David Hogg pillow? Oh, no, that's right. He couldn't make it work because apparently he just found out it's not that easy to just have a good idea and I'll go make pillows and sell it and I'll be a millionaire. No. You need a factory. You need employees. You need startup capital. You need materials. You need to be able to source these materials. Do you know where to get a bale of cotton, David Hogg? So that's just another example. He's a really big gun control advocate. He accepted a debate with this guy named Dave Smith, who in libertarian circles, we all just love him. He's a reformed stand-up comedian. He still does stand-up comedy, but he's more political now. And he just mopped the floor with him. Did that end his career? No. Now he is the vice chair of the Democrat National Convention, the whole thing, the DNC. He's their new vice chair. This was his speech that got him in when they had their meeting over the weekend. This little weenie is now their leader. And this is the outreach you're looking for. By the way, if you don't know what he looks like he's maybe 5'10". He's pretty tall, but about 150 pounds. Like when Easy said Snoop is 150 pounds when you're wet and wearing boots. That's David Hogg. Anyway, here he is.
How are we doing, fellow Democrats? Are you ready to get back to winning? That's not loud enough. Are you ready to get back to winning? Because I'm ready to fight for you. After Parkland, our country was in a similar moment.
All right, policies. Do you have any policies?
We had a Republican trifecta in Washington. And we, as students, were told it wasn't going to be possible for us to create change. By many of the same pollsters, pundits, and consultants I've heard you all complain about with me on the phone with several hundred times. But guess what? We didn't listen to them, and that's why we won. In a Republican state, we said we are going to take on the NRA, and guess what? We won. Yeah! We raised the age to buy a gun in Florida to 21 and passed a red flag law that's been used over 19,000 times. A law that has been so popular, not even Ron DeSantis has been able to repeal it. We got Republicans on the defense because we went on the offense. Yeah! Are you ready to go on the offense?
Heck yeah. Come on. Just please run on gun control. Run on DEI. Why don't you just bring masks back while you're at it? Why don't you just, dude, you'd be better off running on lawn darts. So we're going to have a good next midterm election. It's already, they just can't stop getting out of their own way. Oh, I'm happy about that. David Hogg, please make him the chair of the whole thing. That is absolutely fantastic. They have a deficit with men, specifically masculine men. This isn't going to win any of us over. This is just going to push us away. This guy's a punchline, and it's hilarious. And I'm so thankful. Lord, thank you for making my enemy so incompetent and goofy. Lainey Wilson is coming on tour to Dickies Arena September 19th. It's her whirlwind tour. For tickets and information, go to livenation.com, or the WBAP Morning Show will be giving away tickets all week long. So listen to WBAP Morning Show if you're a Lainey Wilson fan. Maybe you can get a pair of tickets from us. Thank you so much for hanging out with the James Show today. Tell someone about my little show. Share my stuff that you see on social media. Find the podcast wherever you're already listening to podcasts. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.